So it's been a month since your photo shoot. How do you guys feel?
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, absolutely. Great.
I'm
$1 million bucks.
Yeah, still basking in the glory of it. I remember you know my thoughts on the photo shoot initially. I thought, no, it's not a good idea. Why would we want a photo shoot? But I'm so glad you and Ivan persuaded me to do one, and Sean encouraged me to go for quote unquote grooming, which I've never done in my life. And I actually really enjoyed the day. And it's the last time I had so much attention paid to me was on my wedding day, so it felt really good.
Yeah,
And
really
I still
enjoyed
enjoyed it. Still feeling, really, yeah.
And I think Sean made it all fun and real Bollywood like. The fan was on us.
Yes, he even had a fan. We had a Bollywood moment with the hair flying all over the place and everything. Not that I have much to go with, but yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
How what was stopping you from doing the shoot in the first place?
Yeah, I know my reasons. I thought I'd have too much overhanging skin showing, under the arms and stomach and everything. But that wasn't the case. By the time we came to the shoot, it wasn't that bad.
I just thought I was I was a bit too old for it, and then I realised you're never too old, and that's one thing this whole thing has taught me is, you're never too old, and I can dwell on that later on. But you can do anything you want to. And I thought, well, I'm encouraged to do so. What have I got to lose? Probably a few snidey comments. Well, I'm going to go for it. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it.
Still getting phone calls. Yeah. I mean, yesterday, up in the high street, somebody called me that, you've lost a lot of weight, and what did you do? You look really good. And so I said, okay, it's RNT. You gave her your website.
She went to the full speed. One of my close friends rang me up. So sent me an email send me a WhatsApp message, and he said, like your new picture, what's with you and Zivia and the weight loss? So I just went back and just simply said rntfitness.com, try it. And he said, I'll look him up. And he knows it's you, but he just said, I'll look him up and see what it's all about. So it'll be interesting to see whether he follows it up or not. And he's mid-40s, so yeah.
Amazing. So one thing I've picked up from this whole thing is that, like you said, anyone can transform, anyone can take charge of their health.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's never too late.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's the most important thing I've learned in the last 7-8 months is that you become, once you become responsible, become accountable,
committed as well.
Committed, lock in your 3 S's. You'd be surprised what you can achieve and what you get out of it. It's not just the physical transformation, which is a real bonus, but there are so many other aspects, the mental well-being, the psychological aspects, and you get this sense of true worth or belief that you can do what you want to do in a confident way, and as long as you're on the right path, I think nothing can stop you, and that is quite important. And it's something I have learned over the last 7 months, and I've from being told I can't quite pop up with the right expression. I'm suddenly being told you're coming up with a lot of new points, more assertive, and I think the assertiveness comes from the fact that you start believing in yourself and think, actually, no, I believe in this. I want to put my point forward. I will argue rationally rather than saying, I'll leave it, let it go, jog that, just let it go. So that's been a big take for me.
What about yourself?
Well, I like looking in the mirror. I like looking at myself.
I mean, 10 months in, by the way, not 7 months. So 10 months,
shopping for clothes. Yeah, shopping for clothes is a big, massive change, because I used to look at clothes and I used to always say, if I can slim down here, I'll wear that next time. And this is the last 10 years I've been saying that, so it never comes. But now I can fit in Roshni's clothes. I'm sort of always reading her wardrobe for something or other. or going in shop, and if I feel, oh, I'd like this, and it comes home, and it fits me, you know, like I'm saying, oh look, so I love that. I'm really enjoying the dressing up.
You go out of your comfort box in your clothing. You go out of your comfort box. You think previously, oh, I'll go to M&S or I'll go to that. This fits the job. So, no, actually, let's try that on.
Yeah.
It might do the job. And I remember once you saying, oh, about when I was 3 months into my journey, and I sent a photo of wearing one of your shirts, and said, ik them, and I said, yeah, I can fit into your shirt. And I remember going to work that day, and one of my colleagues said, that's a new shirt. I said, no, it isn't a new shirt. It's actually Akash's shirt, and it fits me really well, so I'm wearing it. I might even keep it. And I've actually got 3 or 4 of your shirts, which are now hanging in my wardrobe, and which I wear regularly, because they fit me. None of my shirts fit me because they're just too big. So yeah, it's been a real...
Is 60 the new 40 then?
I think my 60...
Or is it the new 30?
I don't know what it is, but it's a good place to be at the moment. Trust me, it's a really good place. Yeah. You feel,
I'm really enjoying it, yeah. And also, fatigue. I mean, I work very long hours. I mean, very long hours. And I used to get fatigued quite early in the day, but now, I was like, let me go into just finish this walk. You know, I've still just got only 15,000 steps to do. You know, we're sort of just trying to get our steps done, just tick off everything in the box. You know, all the water, the nutrition, meal preps.
So it's helped your energy.
It's tremendously more focus, and when it is work time, I'm more focused and I can get the work done. Not in 2 or 3 hours instead of the whole day procrastinating. Yeah, as you say. Yeah. That's really helped. I don't know whether it. I can't really pinpoint if it is the RNT journey, if it's your more mindset.
What do you mean by that?
As in, because you've got, you've done your meal preps. I'm not thinking like when I'm at work, when I'm doing work, I'm not thinking about, what should I cook or things like that. So, I've got tomorrow planning, so I've got gym to go. But I know certain things are just on there, which needs to be done. So
they're set there. They're almost set in stone. And had somebody told me, as you said, nearly 8 months ago, or not even 10 months ago, I'll be waking up at 5 in the morning to do, just to make sure that either I got my cardio done or my steps in or help meal prep.
Training,
I'd have laughed, thinking this is just not going to happen. But it's amazing. Within a couple of weeks of starting the journey, I started sort of helping with the meal prep, and now we both wake up. I wake up 15 minutes after Divya does, and we've got the system going of preparing everything, getting ready to go to the gym, getting our cardio in, and what it does is once we have our breakfast and everything, you're set for the day, and it's a really amazing feeling because you can just concentrate on the day ahead and not worry about. Sometimes you bring me at 5 o'clock. What should I cook for you today? Because
that's not in the equation.
That's not in the equation anymore. Dinners, you know what you're going to have for dinner. You know what the afters is going to be, which is actually, if you do the RNT journey for one thing and one thing only, do it for the yogurt treat you get at the end of the day, because that is a complete game changer.
Love that.
Well, I think it's also important to say here that there's no such thing as an RNT diet. There's something people associate that the RNT diet means restricting all your food intake.
No,
it's quite
not
the opposite.
At all.
It's quite the opposite.
That I discovered that when I used to do my old diets, like every Monday I used to start a diet.
Try every new magazine diet, right?
Yeah, every magazine, every Monday, and then, or if it's first of the month, right, tomorrow, this is it, and then come down 2 weeks. I've gone back to my old self. But with RNT, what we found was, what was the real aha moment for me was the macros you give. So you say you've got to eat carbs, fats and proteins, and within this you can have whatever you've put down, on your list. And the list is so wide, all cultures, it fits everybody. It's not that, because you're on a diet, you can't have, I don't know, we have everything, don't we?
Pretty much.
Yeah, and we have social events, we go everywhere, we eat everything.
And what you discover is you also discover that within that macro that you've set, you can actually play around and become really creative in your food. And that's one thing I learned from Roshni, your sister, that she would create some amazing stuff. And then, how did you do that? And she said, actually, it's that bit from my macro, that and that, and I've combined it, and this is the result. And think, I'll try that.
Nice.
Nutritional literacy and education.
It's amazing.
And that's what other diets don't give you. They have soup or cabbage or whatever, they've said. And that's it. And then you're so tired by 2 weeks. Even the CTP phase, you'll probably ask me, why didn't you do it 10 years ago? But I was so scared of that CTP phase. I thought, oh no, same old thing I've got to have every day. But it wasn't that bad. It was because it was what I liked. It wasn't, you didn't say have soup or cabbage or whatever. It was, your coach said, okay, tell me what you eat and then I'll put something together.
Yeah,
and then I said to him, well, I don't like this and I don't like, and then he came back to me and said, okay, yeah, what do you like, and let's do work on it. And so the CTP phase wasn't that bad as well. I mean, even I didn't find the grind that bad.
In fact, the CTP phase was one of the best ones, because my coach, he obviously, you must always give me some background information, because he put yogurt as my breakfast. I thought, I can't go wrong here. This is one of my favourites. I can't go wrong here. And I really enjoyed the CTP phase. And it just, there was so much variety put in that you didn't feel. But what you do is, because you have this meal plan within which you work, it gives you a lot of flexibility. And on top of that, there were so many people who already been on that journey, and they were posting recipes on the site saying, have you tried this, or have you tried that, have you tried that? And you think, you can't do that with porridge, surely. And you'd be surprised what you can do with porridge. Because porridge is a real...
We've made tepla, we've made, you can make dosas.
Nimalan
was saying...
What's the English version?
Version
of pancakes.
Yeah, it's like a spicy. Tepla you call a spicy chapati.
Just saying, just for people who don't understand.
The South Indian dishes, Nimalan, he's come up with these South Indian dishes he's telling me about. So, I think it suits every culture. Yeah. Cuisine, every single cuisine.
I think there's this big misnomer that a CTP phase is restriction, but it's not. It's teaching you a foundation of education and how to actually understand what your nutrition's about, and it's taking out all the variety. So everyone is obsessed with variety, but they don't realize how much clutter that forms in your mind when you're thinking. You used to think all the time, what am I going to eat today? What am I going to eat tomorrow? What should we eat tonight? And it's constantly, you spend half your day talking about what you're going to eat, and you're drained.
Definitely. Right? And then shopping for that.
Yeah, then you shop for it. You got to shop for 50 different food items.
I used to get that on Wednesday and Thursday. Mum would bring me
Wednesday and Friday.
So Wednesday and Friday, she goes, what do you fancy eating? So I said, oh, come on, go on, make a suggestion. Go and make a suggestion.
You spend 10 minutes going back and forth, right?
And in the end, she sort of texted me saying, fancy this? Yeah, go for it. Let's go. But now we know what we're going to have, so it just cuts out the...
It's funny, because 9 out of 10, that suggestion was always the same. So it wasn't any variety.
Well, most people actually eat, there's only I can't remember the exact stat, but there's very few foods people actually, it's like 8 to 10 foods that people actually eat a day when you leave them to it. Yeah. But they want to have that feeling that they've got loads of variety.
Well, that's what.
But this is the other thing. It's you've limited it for a period, but after that you can do it without feeling fatigued from it, because you do it from an educational choice rather than what do we fancy tonight? Yeah. Right. All right. Let's rewind the clock now a bit, and let's go back to what sparked your reason to finally start this. I've been doing this for over 10 years, right? Why did you not take up this journey earlier? And all the times I've tried, right?
Yeah.
All the time.
Well, so we've been your guinea pigs, haven't we? You've given us training sheets to do, but we always.
I mean, just to say that, I've actually looked on a Word document, my folder from 10 years ago, and I have folders labelled Mum Program, 2008. That sort of stuff. Right back in the day. But none of them were ever stuck to, right?
I think you're not being fair. I don't think you're being fair on yourself there, because what you did was you did set up training programs for us, and we followed them. What we didn't follow, and we should have really made an effort, was our eating habits.
Yeah.
And one thing we've realised recently was, and we were commenting about it a couple of days ago, I said, now when we take a break from our gym for say a few days, when we go back, we don't feel like we're starting again or we're going to start from scratch. We feel we know this is where we were. We're going to continue from there and build on that. I think what you did was without you realising it or us realising, we had certain foundations set up. It just took a long time for them to germinate and turn into little shoots.
For me, I thought accountability.
Yeah.
And I think because we blood relation, so we're too attached to each other. So accountable to you, it doesn't work. So accountability, as in attachment, But accountable to somebody else, I think that's
a different ball game.
Yeah. So I mean, I've got Ed Pimmy.
But even then, why did you decide to want to create have accountability? Like that's another thing. You had the opportunity to gain accountability for 3 years since RNT's formed. Well, even before that, you could have gone to anyone. Why?
Yeah. So
why
we saw Roshni go through it, and we were sort of, because Roshni's emotions are on her sleeves, So she would tell us every single thing, and from day one, she was in tears one day. So I said,
in fact, it was the very first day she started. We joined her for a walk, and she was telling us something that happened at her work. And it was her first walk we were going on, and I remember it was quite a sort of, it was getting dark and everything. So I said to her, are you upset about what's happening at work? I know, you're upset about starting a new journey and you're hungry. And she said, I don't know, but I'm upset, I don't know. So
and she started crying. She said, I don't know, but I'm really upset.
So I thought to myself, I can't sort her work problem out other than share it and discuss it with her. But what I can do is, I can join on her mini journey and try and eat similar to what she's eating. So I asked her the following day, well, she's having yogurt, how much should I have? And he said, well, why don't you have this much? Which, by the way, was more than I would prescribe. But anyway, it was good fun. But I in that process, we all both lost a bit of weight because then we went to a wedding last November. And as Divya says, Roshni wears her emotions on her sleeves. She will tell you what her day been like the minute she walks through the door.
But then she was also, we sort of cut down on snacks because we didn't want her to see us having snacks because she
felt guilty.
So, and then we thought, okay, how many steps have you got? We'll join you for the steps. So we wanted her to succeed. And then once she had her photo shoot, we thought, oh, actually, we could do this, couldn't we?
Well, that's what Divya thought. My turning point was when you said, Dad, it's one of those when you put on that somber voice of yours. And it's always at the dining table. And he goes, well, and you're eating, and you sort of look at me saying, you really haven't got any excuse for this one, so let's listen to me. And he said, well, Dad, why don't you have a go? You're going to turn 60 this year. Health issues, you've got to address this. And at the back of my mind, I was also doing this thing with Roshni for the last 4 months. And I thought to myself, I should do it. And then Mum had started, so I thought, she's doing it. So I know she'll make damn sure she'll give me support. But my biggest worry, and then the thing I thought, well, if I embark on this, there are 2 people I'm not going to let down. I'm not going to let you down. I don't want you to think, oh, I've tried everybody and my dad's let me down. That'd be real major sort of face down for me. And more important than you would be your coach. It would be the coach, the RNT coach, because he would think, actually, I've been training everybody, and look who I failed, the old man. And I thought, I couldn't want to do that. So once I said I'm going to do it, I'm going to use your favourite word in. Let's dive in.
The thing is, that's an external reason. Like that's not something that keeps you going. What was the internal reason to start? Like the external, like you can't tie your success in me and I. Like what is the internal driver here? There was obviously something deeper here. What's the internal?
For me, it was every time I go out and I say, to some of the my peers, they would say, how are you? And they would if I say how are you, and they would always say, oh, it's okay. I've got cholesterol, blood pressure, and diabetes. And I think, oh my God, I'll be in that situation if I don't watch it as well. That was a real aha moment for me. So, you want to. It's preventative is better than cure.
Yeah.
So I thought, I've got to do it now. The commitment, and then there was. It all timed well with Roshni's photo shoot.
Everything came together.
Yeah, everything came together, and.
I think that's also my reason, because as you know, I suffered a stroke in 2011, and which necessitated me undergoing what is known as a PFO closure. In 2018, I had a prostate issue, which was pretty much well publicised because I had to cut short a holiday and everything. But we have heart disease on both sides of my family, cholesterol, and also, my grandfather so I had blood pressure. And up until I was 47, I managed my cholesterol levels by being careful what I ate and everything. And then at 47, they said, no, we need to put you on the minimum dose. And I sort of kept the minimum dose for about 4 years, and then I had my stroke. And then one of the first things the consultant said, well, they should double your statins. You were on a very low dose. And I said, well, actually, yes. The reason for that is I was managing with I said, no, they should double your statins. So I said, well, okay, we'll go with that. And on top of that, because of my stroke, I've been prescribed a blood thinner. And as I was approaching this age, I thought, I don't want any. If I can avoid it, I don't want any more prescription medicine for the rest of my life. If I can avoid it, if I can get my house in order. And then going forward, if something happens, at least I can say to myself, actually, I've done everything I can to maintain myself and everything. Now I'm at the mercy of an external force or something within me which I cannot control. And that became a strong starting point for me. Plus the fact I was going to hit 60. I thought to myself, I've tried doing something for myself every sort of year or so. If I don't do it now, I never will, and I've got to do it. And I'm so glad I did it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Won't go back.
So health was the biggest driver.
I think so. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Making yourself looking good is added bonus. But the change in my health and everything. And when I had my first, I had a consultation with the doctor, and I went through my cholesterol levels. He said, "Sorry, can you read them back again?" And I went and said, "They've gone down substantially." I said, "Yes. They have," and I said, I'm doing this with my son and everything. He said, yes, it's really, really good. Now, what I would like to do is I'd like to have a face-to-face meeting and say to him, now that I'm doing this, I'm observing everything. Is there anything we can do with the medication? If possible, just get rid of it.
Yeah, I personally think you could probably get rid of it now.
Yeah, so I'm going to give it a go.
I think he hasn't had one-to-one.
Yeah, I think in the next one-to-one it'll be like you're clear now.
Yeah, it's and I think I can do it. And I think with going with the RNT way, doing exercise with good food practice in place, it shouldn't be an issue.
We also find it's quite addictive now, isn't it? Like going to the gym in the morning, prepping food. It's addictive. If we don't, in the weekend, sometimes we don't. We wake up a bit later and the whole
it
day.
throws the whole day.
Because you know what good is now.
Yeah.
And I understand why.
Now
I spent 10 years doing it.
Yeah.
So health is one. Roshni was another, and then I know for you, Mum specifically, you've been yo-yoing for so long.
Yeah.
And I think there was that story of me predicting your future.
Yes.
You want to go into that?
Yeah. So at 45. I showed you my logging sheets. This is look, Akash.
Your weight tracking sheet.
Yeah, weight tracking sheet. I said, look, Akash, every year I'm putting on 1 kilo. This is getting a trend now. And you said, well, when you're 55, you're going to be 10 kilos. Can you imagine how much you're going to weigh then? And then I thought, oh my gosh, yeah. And he predicted, right? I was I was more, wasn't I? 58, not 55. Sorry, I was 68 kilos, not 60. not
65,
what's
yeah.
I was supposed to be 65. Well, I predicted I was going to be 65. But yeah, so this is what happens to middle-aged women. We sort of tend to let go. We tend to think that this is norm. We tend to
we
like being that comfort zone. We like saying we haven't got time when everybody's got 24 hours, so we can fit it in. It's just that you sort of become lazy, I think, and when nutrition comes, or you don't want to move that much as well. You know, you sort of go into the office and because you're so comfortable in your job by 55, and your life, that you don't want to make any changes. But I say to women now, please make that change, because there will be a new you again. You'll find yourself a new purpose in life and not get bored with your, just wait for retirement to happen. You know, many women do retire at 60 now, or earlier sometimes because of their health reasons, so they can make a change now. And it only took us, 6 months, 8 months? I mean, for a month I wasn't, 9 months,
I mean, my checking point is...
the time is irrelevant here, right? Like,
absolutely.
how long it took, it doesn't matter here.
Yeah.
The point is you did it.
Yeah.
That's the key here.
I mean, it doesn't take long.
What we need to emphasize here is why are these men as well, which you can come on to after, but why are women in particular struggling in their 50s, or even from their 40s, late 40s, 50s, late 50s, 60s, like, what's the commonalities? Why are these happening? Why are they letting go of their self-care?
Women, also if they've got injection, I was just talking to another person, and she's having diabetes, and another medication she would rather have than going to the gym.
Why? Why is that?
She's just saying, gyms, because even the doctors are not saying go to the gym, they need to give them an RNT plan. This is what you need to do, the ABC, macros, and you'd be fine. Not prescribe them.
It's an easy way out.
Yeah, easy way out, because they make money,
yeah.
And everyone's happy.
Well, for you, go on.
And you would probably say, and when that person gets home, they'll probably say, "Oh, I've got another medicine."
Yeah.
And sometimes they're quite proud of having so many medicines as well.
Coming back on that, 5 years ago, if you remember, we were stuck at Malta Airport, and your grandmother, your two grandmothers, and Divya's aunts and everything, because we were waiting for this, we waited almost 8 hours for our flight. At one point, there were 5 women in their 70s plus, all discussing medication, and it was a badge of honour. It's just saying, I take these many medicines, and I thought to myself, that's not what we should be talking about.
One was saying, I've taken 8, and he goes, oh, only 8, I've got 12. It's like...
And you don't want to, we want to, if you can educate yourself away from that, and find that if we can do something much earlier, and I suspect that's one of the reasons that's one of the fear I have, and why I address is, I don't want any more medicines. I want to, so if I can cut back, it'd be really, then
I can guarantee you, you'll be off it.
But what I want to do is, I don't want another don't want another prescription added to my prescription list.
Yeah. But I would feel that you want to be as disease-free
as possible,
as long as you can. Like my grandmother, she was 100, and also Dipak's grandmother, she was 100, and they never had any medication, because they used to be out and about in the garden, pottering around, doing housework. But nowadays you find that when they're 75, 80, they're encouraged from other family members not to do work as well.
Yeah.
Not to be active.
Not to be active. They just say, take it easy, don't do much.
Don't do anything in the house.
Don't do anything in the house. So that makes them have more medication, more issues.
It's a vicious circle. Yeah. It's a real vicious circle, and you've got to find a way of breaking that circle.
Well, the biggest problem is it's linked to the
NHS.
If in the UK, the NHS, right?
Yes,
that's the biggest problem.
When you see in Japan, everybody lives long.
Yeah.
Because I read the book Ikigai, and in there they were saying the Japanese, they all, as a community, eat healthy, organic. You know, in the evening they'll all sit out and just chat. So mindfulness is there. God, in the morning, their ritual would be meditate, water the garden. So you know, this is the type of things you need to do. Do the housework. So you know, they said that we're active. We do our walks, everything, and they all live between 80 and 100.
And well.
And disease free.
Which is the most important thing.
The key thing is like, if you don't, you know, they always hear, if you don't use it, you lose it, right?
Yeah,
and
definitely.
And there's clear research which shows muscle mass loss expedites after the age of 40. Every decade, you lose more and more muscle.
It's in the paper today.
Yeah, and if you don't protect your muscle mass, it will deteriorate rapidly. It will naturally go down anyway, but you can slow that. A lot of this is preventative.
But you can also reverse it.
You can reverse
like
it.
We have. I mean, now we're lifting weights. And I'm saying, I'm going to tell Akash this, I'm lifting 70 kilos now. So, you know, like, I know you'd be really proud of me when I say that. So,
you're doing how many reps on the chin-ups? With
10.
And with weight?
With weight, 8 kilos, I can do one set of 10.
One set? So you can do more, you can't do...
No, sorry. When I was practicing on the chin-ups, and I remember sending you a WhatsApp message, and I said, say 10 chin-ups. And you said, no, show me a video. And I actually just sent you a video with it. And I was doing chin-up, and after my checking point, I started doing weights. And I think I can do, with an 8 or 10 kilo weight, I can do one set of 10 reps. Which for me, it's a big, that's my big sort of,
do that.
So
and I'm working, that's what I'm working on. And
everything you lost, he puts.
And the other thing I'm learning, teaching, which I'm sort of working on, is skin the cat, and that just came purely by chance because I was shoulder pain, and so someone said, "Look, no, try doing this. If you can do this, it's not shoulder pain."
That's so good. Really good.
And I was guided through it, and then when we had the photo shoot, you guided me through it, and you actually went and did it yourself. I thought, wow. So I've got a bet on with, well, not a bet, a deal with Sham. Yeah, he said, if you can do the skin the cat and then do it all the way around again, we'll do another photo shoot. And I said, you're on. And I'm gonna go for it. So now I'm sort of like, that's got to be my next thing to aim for.
So with this issue around meds and health, and I want to stay on this because most people over the age of 50 just take it as acceptance that their health is going to deteriorate and that meds are their future. Everything goes south with their work, their life, everything. Yeah. Especially after 55 and 60. Like 50 is probably still young in that context, but after 60, like for sure, what needs to change in the mindset of communities, but also like potentially wider institutions, government and the way NHS in the UK, but the same applies in the US especially.
I think education.
And
education on food.
I feel there aren't enough people out there telling everybody that it can be done. There aren't enough role models there that they can look at and say, yeah, actually, if she can do it, I can do it. I think you need to make that, broaden that. You need to make more clients who are our age, attract more clients. It can be done, and also maybe you need to go and talk to NHS about this. Because they shouldn't prescribe medicine. They should say, well, plan A, follow this diet, and let's see in a year's time. I think there aren't enough good.
But the problem is, it's all financially driven for them, isn't it?
For them, it's financially driven, but
they've got to meet prescription quotas and all sorts, right?
That's it.
I think also a lot of the...
You need to go and see Boris.
Yeah. A lot of the doctors we have, they take an easy option, and partly that's due to the fact that they're probably under so much pressure. They've got so many patients to see in a day. What I find refreshing is some of the younger doctors, and I speak from experience, having spoken to some of your friends who are doctors and who actually talk about changing the mindset. But I had a telephone consultation with a doctor last week, and he actually took the trouble of asking me all the medication I took, medical history. I mean, he had it on his screen, but he just ran through it with me. It's the first time I came across somebody who actually knew what he'd been asked to do on a consultation rather than fumble. Because sometimes when you have a consultation, they sort of fumble with their notes, and you what you then do is you spend the next 10 minutes explaining everything to them and thinking to yourself, actually, this is one of the reasons why it would make sense if everything was centralised, that they would know exactly what the state of play is. But this doctor, and he was a junior doctor, had actually taken the trouble of reading the notes, and the letter he wrote to my GP, which they copy to you now, he actually, the opening paragraph was medication currently taken, and they listed the two medicines I take plus one of the supplements I take, and then they did a very brief, concise history of my medical background, and then went on to break down what should happen next, which I thought was really good. But that's what you need. You need people engaged, and finding that you need to sort of have nutrition, education, everything lined up together. At the moment, there is this lack of education on what we should be eating. I speak from my own experience. And
if you think about back when you were first prescribed meds, do you remember when I said to you, I think you don't need them? Yeah. I said multiple times, you don't need them. Just eat better. And
yes.
But there's also this other thing, man. I want to touch on this now, because older people will always listen to their doctors.
Yeah.
And like, I can't say, I'm not going to say like we're more powerful than doctors, but I think what we do is more powerful than the meds, right? But what do you say to, like, how do you create a level of education for them? Because a lot of them just don't listen. A lot of older people, like, and before you guys speak, I know you're eager to speak, but so many people that listen to this podcast in particular, and a lot of are between the ages of, say, 25, 30 to up to 50, right? And they have parents who are anywhere between 55 on the lower end up to 80. And they all say the same thing: my parents don't listen, or they won't change, it's too late. You have a chance now to speak to all these people. What do you say? What do you say to both the children who have parents who are your age and maybe above, and the parents themselves? Because I want them to hear this as well. What do you say to them?
Do you want to go first?
Well, I would say that their mindset, they need to have that mindset initially to say, okay, I want to get off these medicines. Let me try and eat healthy, move more, and eat less medicines. They just need to make that small changes to their diet, such as not having sugar, oil, just slight small changes. It's not to have it every day. They could have it afterwards, once a month or something like that. We're not saying never ever have it. Small changes, they need to, we as RNT need to make it, as I'm saying, attracting more of our example, and we can be ambassadors for you guys, saying, let's go on your community meetings, let's have these meetings to talk about these things, how you can make a change. I think that's what I would do initially. So when they're having a get together, can I come in and talk to you about this? I'm not sure, what would you suggest? To make a difference. If we can make a difference to 10 people, then 10 people say to other 10 people. Okay,
but now let's talk about, you have an opportunity now to speak to these people. They're listening to you right now. Yeah. What do you want to tell them? You've got 65, 70-year-olds listening to this who are on meds, on borderline meds, overweight. They don't take any care of themselves physically, mentally. What are you going to say to them now? Speak to them.
So I would say to them, why do you want to let go when you've got one chance in a lifetime to make a difference to yourself? All you have to do is the 5 things. Stay hydrated, sleep better, eat better. What else? 4, 5 things, isn't there? Nutrition
and exercise.
And exercise.
This is all foreign to them. That's the thing.
Yeah, exercise is not going to the gym. Exercise is doing the housework, doing the gardening, going to the park if you don't have a garden, going for walks. That's all it is. It's nothing. You don't have to go to the gym. You know, you can lift cans of beans and just move your arms.
Yeah.
There isn't anything that they can't do. They don't even have to spend money.
Yeah.
Get rid of the word can't. Get rid of the word from the vocab.
Mindset
Simple.
has to be.
I think.
But what if like
coming back to your
because a lot of them are just like, and as bad as it sounds, they're waiting for the end.
Death.
They're waiting for death. Like this is as bad as that sounds. It's so true though, right?
Yeah.
A lot of them just reside themselves too. It's like
I think coming back
after
to
you get to 60, it's like, all right, we're just gonna wait it out now.
Yeah. Coming back to your original question about the generational thing, and I think this is very important. I think it's more so now than it's ever been. Is that you say, 65-year-old, parents don't listen to me and listen to the children, and that's the biggest mistake we as parents make. And I think you should, absolutely critical, listen to what your child has to say to you, because 9 out of 10 they'll make sense. And one thing I've discovered is that I was on during my journey, I had Ivan. I don't know how old Ivan is, but I said to myself, I'm going to listen. He's my quote unquote guru. I will listen to what he says, because he's a person talking from a place of profession. He knows what he's talking about, and I'm going to follow him. And I said to him right from the outset, I don't want any special treatment. I want you to treat me the same way as you treat any other RNTers. And he said, don't worry. He's got a very laid back habit. The laid back habit is a bit of a facade, because he's very, very strict. And he said, I'll rein you in, and he did on a couple of occasions. One time he actually sent me a voice message, and he was like being in a headmaster's room, being told off. But the important takeaway from that was he was talking sense. And that's the one thing I find in the Asian community. There is this fallacy, this mindset that when your child is talking to you, you think you tend to be fairly dismissive, and I suspect I was the same with you. I made no apologies for myself. Just change that, because your child is actually talking a shed load of sense to you, and if you just take on one or two aspects from that, you can change the whole way of thinking. That's how I see it. And one thing you realise is that just by extending a leaf thing, just saying, actually, he's talking sense, I will follow it. You'll be surprised by the outcome, as I've been.
Yeah, but sometimes it's the generation, because we're the sandwich generation, yeah? We did everything our parents said, and we do everything our children tell us, yeah? So we're the sandwich generation. When we,
so a bit of rebels.
Yeah, so we have to listen at both ends and make this compromise. And sometimes that ego gets into our age generation, that why should it be us who's always compromising? Why can't that generation compromise, or this why is it always, and that ego gets in their way as well. So instead of embracing the experience from the older generation and embracing the young mindset, sometimes ego takes over and we say, no, we're the law.
And we know so many stubborn people in your age group, right? You told me of so many of your friends who are just, they know it all, they're stubborn. And one thing you said to me, Dad, is that a lot, especially men in particular, they don't want to admit that they're broken.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, what is that?
That's because I think what it is that you find, especially amongst Asian men, I think men in general.
I think you guys said Asian twice. I think it applies
everywhere.
That's okay.
Also, it's a blame game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm ill because, it could be a blame game. I'm like this. I'm fat. I haven't done anything at work. I'm not like that. That kind of attitude they have because I was never given the chance, or because I was raising my children. I mean, everybody does that, but and the successful people always carry that forward, embrace that and responsibility. Yeah. But some blame others for their issues, like, oh, I've got diabetes because it's always been in the family.
Yeah,
that's a very common one.
You used to always tell Dad off, didn't you? Like, he said, "Oh, we've always had cholesterol in the family." You always said.
Yeah, I said like, why
you
does,
made the
doesn't
change.
mean you have to have it as well.
And do you remember when I had this knee issue when I was about 40, and I said to you, "Will you come to the doctors with me?" Because and the doctors said we can either do a procedure, and you said, "Well, that's not, we're not going to do that," or you can exercise. So remember, I did those 6 months of exercise, which is you'd given and the doctor physio given, and that's it. The knee problem went. So I could have gone to the route saying, I've got a knee problem and give me steroid injections, because that happens a lot to women my age.
Yeah.
I'll do the knee operation in a few years' time. Yeah.
How old are you then?
I was 43.
So when it all kind of starts,
right?
Yeah,
all the started then.
Yeah.
So
talk about the ego of the not wanting to be accepting that you're broken, because
I think it's you feel that you're a failure almost, because we're brought up with this common thing that you're the man of the house, you go out to earn, you put food on the table, and if you suffer some form of illness, you try and hide that, or you see that actually if they find out that I'm ill, I can't provide, I can't perform, and you suppress that. And one thing I did when I suffered my stroke was the immediate family knew, people at work knew, but it's not something I talked about. And I wish I had talked about it, because I know with my stroke they couldn't find a real reason as to what caused it. And it's interesting, the stroke consultant said, well, we've done all these tests, we think it's you've got a gap between the left ventricle and the right ventricle, and you've got to undergo a PFO closure. So when you took me, you came with me that day to when we went in for my procedure, and you dropped me off. And I met the heart consultant, and he said, "Nah, I don't think that's quite right." So I said to him, "It really doesn't matter. It's happened. So you've got to put me right." But after that period, the period of recovery, you realise how vulnerable you are, and you start internalising everything, because men don't talk about their feelings and everything. And I remember during my stroke, I was told by a stroke mentor, somebody who'd been assigned to me to sort of get me through all this, and she said, Dibak, at the moment you're on a high in the sense that you're upbeat, you're looking towards getting better, getting stronger, but I can assure you, you will suffer a crash, and you'll go into a dark area, and you need a lot of support. And I remember experiencing that, and instead of sharing it with you guys at home, I got really angry, wouldn't communicate, and I found a perfect solution to that was I'd walk out, go for a walk, and I'd come back to thinking I was okay. I really wasn't okay at the time. I needed to talk to somebody about my mental struggle. And I remember I coped with it going to work on a part-time basis and everything, sort of pushing it on the side. But there was one moment I sort of fessed up to a colleague at work, and he said, "Why don't you talk about it at home?" And I then spent a long time talking with your mum about it. And that's one thing men don't do, is we as men very rarely express what we're going through. And when you do so, you realise how helpful it is, not only for yourself, of unburdening yourself, but actually your family, your loved ones, your partners can actually understand what you're going through and how they can reach out and help you. It's very critical. And now I talk about, I say to people, I suffered a stroke. I had a prostate issue. And even when I had my prostate issue, I was struggling. When I cut short my holiday, I was really struggling. Until one day ex-colleague of mine rang me at home, purely out of the blue, wanting some advice on a legal matter. And she said, "You sound really rough." I said, "This is what's happened to me." She said, "Oh, don't worry, it's happened to my husband. This is the consultant who's going to help him. Why don't you go and get in touch with him?" And that just opened up the whole door for me. Even then I wouldn't talk about it. Do you remember? I wouldn't talk about it. And I then went to the gym one day, just to walk. And I bumped into a couple of people we used to chat with. And one said, we haven't seen you for a long time. I thought to myself, shall I lie or shall I just be upfront and tell him? I said, actually, I'm going to be honest with you. I had a prostate issue. He said, oh, I've had one. 2 seconds later, his brother comes on. Oh, they thought I had cancer, prostate cancer. I went through it. Suddenly you discover this community of men who've never talked about it, suddenly start talking about it. And then I realised we sort of meet up once in a while and just talk about the difficulties of coping and everything, of just moving forward. And it was called the Brotherhood of the Prostate. We sort of meet, we talk about it occasionally, not so regularly. But I find that you should be ashamed of it. You should be ashamed of it. You should talk about it. It's sort of thing. It's like my stroke. I'm happy to talk about it. I can say to people, I don't know what caused my stroke, but one thing which did help my recovery much earlier was the fact that I was doing exercise on a regular basis. And what I should have done is, I should have continued doing exercise. And the doctor said, well, no, don't do for 3 months, don't do too much exercise, do gentle swimming and like that. I think what they should have said is continue. And I remember your mum and I went to Champney, to Spa, and we went to, I think on a Sunday morning, we went to a yoga class, and I said to her, I'll come, but I'll tell the teacher that this is what has happened to me, and then she can decide. And the first thing she said was, no, you can do all the exercises, but what we will do is all those which deal with when you might have to put your head down or anything like that, we won't do those, but you can do everything else because the rest of you is working fine. I don't see why you should. I thought to myself, at that point, here's somebody who's actually taken on board my condition, found a solution that actually I can exercise, but with a condition. And then, so if you're suffering from any condition, I can assure you that you can still exercise, and whoever sort of devises your exercise will work around you, because these personal trainers, they're all knowledgeable. They haven't sort of got their badge of honour or whatever you want to call it simply by calling themselves PTs. Majority of them
transformation coaches.
Yeah,
not
sure,
PTs.
Sorry, transformation coaches. Take it all back. They have done, they've been through the quote unquote grind themselves to get where they are.
But so, on the concept of not considered broken, is this more applicable is this especially applicable in the 50s, 60s, 70s crowd?
Yes.
Also, yes.
Yeah.
The younger crowd will talk about, they're quite
I think the new generation.
It's still bad. I mean, it's better, but it's not. I don't think it's as bad.
They're still more.
Where does it come from? Where does it come from?
From our parents.
I still think.
I think they used to brush things under the carpet.
Yeah.
Well, no,
Go on, what were you saying?
I also think that there's still in society there is still this reluctance to encourage men to talk about their feelings. It's coming down now, I think, but there is that if there's a famous song by Alice Cooper, written by Alice Cooper, called "Only Women Bleed." Actually, all of us bleed.
But I think women talk about it, but women blame others for their problems. So it's always talking about it, but they say, because I had this, I couldn't do this. Because I have children, I can't go to the gym. Because, I go to work, I haven't got time to meal prep, whatever.
It's a
blaming thing.
It's like the 10,000 steps you told initially when you start the journey, you go to the thing, how am I going to fit these 10,000 in? But you do find a time. You actually fit everything in.
Everyone's got 24 hours.
Yeah.
It's
and you just fit it in and you think to yourself, okay, I'll wake up half an hour early. Now I wake up at 5 pretty much every day, and I quite enjoy it. I even wake up at 5. I woke up at 5 this morning, but then went back to bed, but woke up at 5. And I remember when I was, as part of the journey, I was struggling with something, and I remember Ivan saying to me, he said, so what time do you wake up at weekend? I said, about 7:30. He said, no. You wake up the same time every day. I can guarantee you'll get results.
I was going to say, that's not something you have to do. Just anyone listening.
No, but what I'm saying is, you can actually.
Yeah, as in, you can do anything.
You can certainly, if you want to sort of find consistency, you can do that. So I was just saying.
Yeah, I know what people are like. People think inflexibly, and they think, okay, well, this means you have to do
It is anything but inflexible.
The point is, there's
so
this time.
But
what Dad was talking about just now, that they found a brotherhood of. What was it? Stroke or prostate. Yeah. So, I mean, you could set up that kind of thing, a brother or sisterhood of RNT. So all these people are going through. Yeah, but that's very young, isn't it? The 40.
I mean, you'd be surprised. I mean, you might be at the higher end, but the problem is the higher end are where what you're talking about. They're not willing to accept help.
Yeah, they need that.
So that needs to be created. The help needs to be created. They need to listen to this to understand that they should be accepting of help.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we need to break that cycle for them.
But you know, something you just said, you said, well, actually, it's rigid. It isn't. Because what you're doing is part of, you're disciplining yourself. And once you discipline yourself, you become really free.
Yeah.
I know it's a bizarre concept to talk about, but once you discipline yourself, you find you're more free.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Discipline equals freedom. It's a paradox, right?
Yeah.
I mentioned it in the book.
Yes,
that same concept. It's a complete paradox, but when you, through discipline, you create rules which allows for freedom.
Absolutely, yeah.
It removes decisions and choice. So getting up at the same time every day is just another one of those options.
Yeah.
The only reason I flagged it is because...
No, but I don't.
Because you don't. Exactly, because you don't. And it works for you.
Monday to Friday, 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Whereas Saturday and Sunday could be 7, 8.
Because it works for you. Yeah. That's the message is that it's got to work for your lifestyle, whatever that is. That's the key here.
Yeah. So you've got to find that, listen to your body and find that balance.
So you talk about you were yo-yoing for years, you were slowly gaining weight, both of you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Slowly gaining weight. What was the underlying muck and root causes of using food or poor lifestyle choices as a crutch?
Yeah, for me, I used to think it was time. I used to think,
but what was the real time is the shallow option. What was the real, what were you using? Poor lifestyle.
It's a way of escaping. You think you know if you have food, your problem's going to go away. Your problem's not going to go away.
Yeah.
After you've had your binge, it's still going to be there. It's still going to be in your laptop. It's still going to be staring at you.
I'm only laughing because of the laptop story.
Yeah. You know
so
the story.
Just to give us just before you carry on, I've got to say the story. So you had a work stress issue, and you had a binge on food. You told Ivan, and Ivan said to you, when you open up the laptop again to look at your work, did it disappear?
Short answer was
right. But carry on,
No, but...
I used to do that. Remember, when I had an issue at work, I used to go to Marks and Spencer's, buy one of those big packet of crisps and munch it and think about that.
And she told me about the issue, and then I joined her. And
I used to think all the issue would go away.
No, we don't. We sit down at the table and work it out. We talk it through. And we realise that the issue may not go away, but we might have found a way of addressing it and finding a solution to it. And that helps, I think, because I think you have more clarity of mind.
But I think coming back to your question, you're saying what was the mark? I think it's a habit as well, eating.
Breaking habits, yes.
Yeah. There was no underlying issues as such, but it's just a habit that when you're sitting on a dining table and discussing, you always want to sort of pick something.
Well, if you're watching TV, you must have big
adverts on the TV, triggers.
Well, they're all associations, right? You've talked about associations. I guess for people who have been adults for 30, 40 years, they've got loads of, which is why I talk about the rewiring that needs to happen. Yeah. Because you're rewiring identity, behavior, mindset, and taking away, okay, I'm stressed at work, I'm not going to use food to deal with it, or I'm stressed, got a family issue or relationship issue, I'm not going to use food to deal with it, or I'm not going to destruct my own self to deal with something which can be dealt with in a different way.
So now what I now do is go for a walk, maybe listen to a podcast.
Journal.
Or journaling, I was saying to Dipper that now, there was some issues coming up recently, and I used to journal out of it, sort of.
Journal your way out of it.
Sort of just write it, so it just makes more sense.
Yeah.
And I've actually rediscovered journaling. I mean, I used to call it diary, but I see the two as pretty much interchangeable. And I've rediscovered the joy of journaling, which is come back to me. So
That's quite addictive now. So if you've got an issue, I know if I've got an issue, I'll sort of write it down and think about it rather than go to Marks and Spencer's and get this packet of crisps. So.
But you're talking about, and this would tie into some of the issues that older people will find in making these small changes because they have so many associations tied into food and tied into poor behaviors, and a lot of it is around identifying it, which that's a struggle in itself. Hard, how do you identify the triggers? But that's why you need to be held accountable to physical non-negotiables.
Yes.
Because when you're restricted on your calories, or you have not restricting your calories, but you're paying attention to your calories, you're controlling your calories, or you're and you have certain physical attributes to hit, and certain things get in the way, then it's like, oh, why did that happen? Like, why couldn't I hit my 10,000 steps? Oh, because I was using it as an excuse for time. Or why did I not control my calories? Oh, because I buried it in work. You start identifying the triggers. So that first step that people have to take is controlling,
just that
applying a level of control,
and then,
creating an accountability around it.
And then once you start doing that accountability, you go wider, don't you? Then you think, okay, I've got this issue coming in, so you can't do more food.
Exactly, that's exactly it.
So what should I do then? Let me go for a walk and just sort it out, or journal, or.
You figure better ways to deal with life,
right? You sort of find solutions, and you sort of look for a strategy. You look for everything within. See, look, if I look at it this way, you can address it, and it spills out into everything else you do. And that's it. That comes out.
Because we tend to reflect a lot, don't we? Yes. But we used to reflect on with food
and alcohol. That's another one that's big for older generations. Alcohol.
It's crutch. It's a form of crutch. Yeah. It's food, alcohol, food. They're all crutches you sort of lean on. You don't need, which you don't need when you look back on it and you analyse. You actually don't need them. You can address all your issues without falling back on things.
So we've spoken about accountability. We've spoken about breaking these associations, and then the older generation. The big thing you keep saying is in lack of education, right? Yeah. Why is education such an important value for you both?
Oh. Education is, I think if everybody needs an education for, just going on in life. It's so important. It's not that you'll use all the maths you learn in school, but it's just being more clearer in your mind how to deal with solutions. That's what maths would be. So if you've got
find a solution.
Find a solution. But if you're talking to different sets of people who's had education and then someone who's not had much education, their mindset is different as well. Their thinking is different. You acknowledge how far you can have that conversation with that person. How much can you get deep into that conversation, and then you stop yourself. When they can't go any further, you stop yourself.
I think it's also it's not education in sort of narrow sense. It could be education just as a broad subject also. So, educating. I mean, on food, nutrition. When I was growing up, the emphasis on things like butter and everything was just unbelievable. You were judged how well your not wealth, but how well you were living, if you can understand, was how much how much butter was going on the spread of the chapatis, or how rich your food, so how rich the food was, and that was seen as a sort of almost like a status symbol. It was not until say early 80s that things started changing, and I remember when my father, when Dad was diagnosed with cholesterol, he completely changed his eating habit. And a guy who loved, taking the oil out of the pickles, and he suddenly gave all that up and then preached to us about the dangers of eating oil and everything, and butter and everything. And the mindset changed. But it hasn't sort of followed all the way through. And I think again it comes back to laziness. You fall back into old habits because you don't want to make that change. And it's when you make that change, you sort of fully realise. And also this thing about the generational gap, where the youngsters feel they're not listened to and everything. And I remember there was one RNT who came home after his photo shoot, and being typically, Gujarati, he said, if somebody had said to me, I would be listening to a 27-year-old guy telling me what to do, and I'm turning this age, I would have laughed. But he's the one who's guided me, channeled me to where I am now, and that's why I should listen to him. And that's. He said I had to make a big mind change. I had to really realise somebody younger is telling me what to do. Yet that happens in our daily lives pretty much. Like I'm. If I get stuck on IT issues, I will not ask somebody who's my age. I would ask somebody who's younger, because they're more tech savvy. So I'm happy to do that. So why can't I be happy? Why, as an adult, can't I not understand that what the youngster is saying is making a lot of shed of sense? Just change the mindset and say, he's teaching me something. Let me take it on board. I know it takes a lot, but you can do it.
The willingness to be educated.
Absolutely.
And also, if you're widely read, growth and success, isn't it? You can touch on anything then. So,
I think what I would say is that just be receptive.
You were talking about is a growth mindset. Yeah. And that's someone
growth mindset is very important.
Someone who's prepared to take on board ideas and changes and everything, and analyse them. Saying, actually, what have I got to lose? And that's the thing I thought to myself when I started it. I had a lot riding on it, and I jokingly said to Roshni, I said to her, I've got two monkeys sitting on one shoulder and a gorilla sitting on another shoulder. The gorilla's telling me, just ignore them, go stick to your old way of life. And the two other monkeys say, no, come on, you can do it. It's that thing. See, you've got to be receptive to change. Just be receptive to ideas and analyse them and say, actually, if I take on board some of this, I stand to benefit. There's no, it's win-win. Going forward, it's all win-win for yourself.
So, education can make you more accountable, introspection. Much more than.
And then take action.
What would you say? I don't know. What would you feel education can lead up to what? If you narrow it down.
Well, I think
reform, transformation,
and also if you're educated, you can go anywhere in the world and start anything.
But I think education.
It's frees you.
It frees you. It just completely frees you. You can become who you want to become, if that makes sense.
So you've achieved your checkpoint. You've consolidated well. You're now, investing in your lifestyle solution. You're trying to learn how to. You're trying to become educated in your body more and more, so you can have your cake and eat it ultimately, and build that lifestyle solution. Talk about that phase and that transition and how you're learning to respect food, how you're adopting better meal hygiene, better nutrition education, building it around your lifestyle so it becomes something you can do for the next 20, 30 years. How have you found doing this phase so far in the first sort of 2-3 months?
So now when we're going to go out, we'll just say, okay, so we're going to eat this when we go out, so what can we cut out if we're going to have a dessert? Should we cut out on the peanut butter or
plan.
So we plan it rather than just having everything to eat all day and then just going in and having a whole full meal and carrying on next day as if nothing's happened. So we'd carry on. What we found hard was, which we keep on reflecting on, making ourselves better and better at it, is when we have a social event, especially at home, what are the triggers which makes us eat more? Because we might be preparing food, so we keep on tasting the food all day, and then the guest might be late, so we keep on nibbling on the food, and then we have it with the guest, and then it might be late, so it might have dragged. So we've been eating since for 6 or 7 hours.
Addressing that, I think, what do we need to do to sort of take a step back and say, right, this is what we're going to do, which is a work in progress.
Yeah.
But from my perspective, you talk about meal hygiene, and I've always said to you, this, if one of the biggest eye openers for me has been appreciating food. Now, in there's some, you know, being I think within our own within the Hindu religion, there is, I know I see mum doing it. I see they actually sort of say a quiet prayer, minute milliseconds of thankful of being their food, and I've learned the meaning of that. That within your restricted calories, you enjoy your food, and you had a gripe with me for the last 15, 16 years. Dad, you're rushing your meal down. And I never took heed of that. I used to wolf my food down and get on the table. Now, I actually sit down and enjoy, and I actually savour every spoonful, and I'm thankful of the food. And that's a big learning curve for me. Has been a big learning curve for me. And you know, we've talked about this before also, and how, you know, you've got to be mindful of food, and you respect the food you're eating. That's something I can't underestimate from my perspective.
Yeah, I've seen a massive change there. It used to be, I'd had about 3 bites when you finished. And then you used to get angry if I told you. You used to be angry and say like, why are you eating so fast? And you get annoyed and storm off. But that's the typical guy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's the guy that you were speaking to here, and the woman as well.
Yeah.
They're the people we're speaking to here that hopefully can shift that. Even that small change there will change them. Stop. You can finish your meal and you're not satisfied, you're going to eat more snacks after. Right? That small shift can make a massive difference.
Even at work, at lunchtime, I will take my packed lunch from home. I will stop everything at 1 o'clock, and for 15-20 minutes I'll just quietly eat my food. Occasionally I'll say, oh, you've got something interesting there. I say, yeah, pre-prepped it all that, but enjoying that food. And then I wash up, then I go back to work or go for a walk, but I will take that 20 minutes off now and just enjoy the food. And like you said, then you feel satiated for the rest of the day, or until you have your afternoon snack or whatever it is being filled in. But that's really important. One thing that you do is you learn to respect your food.
What is how would you like to inspire a new generation?
Well, in a nutshell, I say go on this journey. But if somebody can take 2 or 3 points from what we're saying, go back, reflect, and implement them, I think it's a step in the right direction.
What I find is the new generation are spinning the wheels at the moment. They think the longer they work, the more appreciated they might, will be at work. So they just, going round and round. So there's no time for anything else. So no meal prep. So they'll might have a pizza on the desk. No exercise. So they're the ones you need to catch, and say, wait, hold on. Why don't you do training?
So by new generation, who are you talking about? I'm talking about how you're going to inspire a new generation, being you guys.
Okay.
Above, not the younger lot. We know that. We know they're spinning their wheels.
How can we inspire them? I think firstly it's educating them about this.
Yeah.
And be good role models for this. But we need to maybe find, community gatherings or...
No, you have an opportunity now.
Yes.
Don't keep saying
I've said all that.
Yeah, this is it, yeah. So how do you... Yeah.
I actually think if one of the RNT's father or mother's watching this, my advice to you would be is that listen to what your child is saying to you. Take a few of their habits, and I can assure you, you will undergo a transformation without realizing it. And you will then imbibe a lot of their habits, and not necessarily go on the journey. You don't have to go on the journey, but you might take on more, imbibe a lot of their habits and become a better person, physically, mentally, and also socially. I think so.
That's a big change in you guys. I've seen way more social nowadays.
Yeah.
Right? In a good way. It's good to see. You have a small friendship group. You have you're going out regularly.
Yeah.
You're almost living a life now, right?
Yeah.
That's probably There's one change I've seen. That's been the biggest one.
Yeah.
It gives, like I said to you earlier, what it does, it gives you a sense of belief, and that sense of belief is incalculable. You cannot put any. It's an amazing sense of my own self.
Empowerment.
Yeah.
Would you say
Empowerment.
With energy.
Because you think actually I can do things I probably didn't think I could do. I can now go. I can try out other things. When I go to the gym and say, yeah, today we're going to do this. Let's go for it. Let's try it.
You're doing the Turkish get-up at the moment. Yeah. So breaking that down.
So I said, I'll go for it. I'm up for it. If after 12 weeks I can do it, I'll be thinking, right, I've achieved something. What's the next thing you go for? Because 60 doesn't mean things go downhill.
No,
you can just continue developing.
You want to be more healthier when you're retired than, because you'll have more time, you can do, more things.
It's joking, somebody said to me that if you can do the Turkish get-up, then you'll have no problem lifting your grandchildren. I said, then I've got to do it. I've got to do this. So at some point I'll have grandchildren, or I can pick my nephews and nieces up. So I'm all up for that. Also,
when we do our walk, there's this hill we always go on to in Northwood, and when I used to be going on there 6 months ago, I was huffing and puffing and I just couldn't get up the hill, and I was like, oh, you lot go, just don't wait for me. And then when I get to the hill at the top, I said to Lipa, the day I can do this hill, you're going to book a skiing holiday.
Oh yeah?
But we had COVID, so...
we had COVID, so
but the beauty of this is that it's a hill you're familiar with, and it's a real steep hill.
Yeah.
And we used to
do my cardio on there.
Yeah, we used to challenge ourselves on that, and we used to say, you also sort of slightly fall behind, but now you keep up, and you say, now we've got to go for that ski trip. And he said, we'll go for it.
I always asked Dad, I said, are you slowing down? Or, for me, I said, you just carry on. And he goes, no, this is my fastest. So, I'm getting there.
She's catching up, yeah. And the one thing is that sometimes Roshi and I will go for a walk. I remember there's one particular day in May, we dropped the car for servicing, and we decided to walk from Harrow the Hill all the way home. Not a long walk. And we started walking, and suddenly I realised Roshni was setting a pace, and I thought I can do one of two things. I can say to her, slow down, Roshni, which would be a loss of face for me, or I could just keep up with her. And I sort of, up until Blythewood Road, I kept up with her, and I said to Roshni and Dad, I said, Roshni, can you just slow down now? Last 100 yards, let's take it easy. We don't rush it. And she said, you should have told me earlier. I said, no, I wanted to keep up. I wanted to see if I could keep up with you, not the other way around. I wanted to make sure I could keep up with her. There are little things like that, and you think, yeah, I can do that. And it makes you feel a sense of, gives you a sense of self-worth, which is immeasurable.
Amazing. Speaking of Roshni, do you want to invite her? Should we invite her into the podcast now?
Go on, then.
So, Roshni, I've got a question for you. Having been the final, having been able to
the linchpin?
Well, yeah, the linchpin or the last trigger to get them going. How does it feel to have seen them change in the last 10 months?
Well, it's actually been really impressive for you, both of us actually, to see our parents do this journey. And what's the big one is seeing them lift more in the gym than I do.
Oh yeah?
That's because that used to be a thing we used to do, go to the gym together. Now we used to all walk down to the gym. We used to take the car actually. For a 2-minute drive, we used to drive to the gym, and then it was only until
one day you pointed it out to
us.
us.
Yeah, no, it was actually when Akash pointed it out, saying, I said to him, how do I get all my steps in? This is when I was grinding as well. And he went, get up earlier, number 1. Number 2, walk to the gym instead. Or get up earlier, do your steps. And that's when I said, how about we start walking to the gym?
Yes,
and there was things I did that I imparted on them, saying, oh, do it this way maybe. This is just a suggestion. Oh. And they actually took it on board and now continuing. The only thing we don't do now is go to the gym together because of all the different timings.
Yeah.
But I do walk. Sometimes when they come walking back, I sometimes walk halfway, meet them there, and then walk back during my break or something.
But she's come up with lots of recipes.
Yeah, we actually consult her a lot on sort of, when we're sort of on a loose limb, we'll consult and say, how do we do this, how do we do that, and she sort of gives us ideas, suggestions.
And I think it's also with Journey Planner and everything, they used to come to me going, I don't know how to work, like how am I working this? It was when I think both Ed and Yvonne both left them to do changing the journey planner themselves, and they were like, we don't know what we're doing, what's going on, like how do we know how many macros to do, how to change it? And I said it's all through trial and error, but it's
what
just
foods we're gonna
what
like.
would be the foods they like and everything, because to an extent you've got to mention to your trainer what you like, and I've always told, especially you, Dad, isn't it? I always say you've got to tell them what you like, otherwise they're not going to, they won't know whether you like it or not.
True,
And this triggered...
This triggered Vigella's kitchen.
Yeah.
During lockdown, when we used to, like, when we were trying to, when Dad was in his peak, he was trying to find alternative ways to make his meals exciting so he doesn't, fall off.
Wagon,
And it wasn't even, when he reached a checkpoint, he goes, I really want a Nando's. But we weren't doing takeaways or anything. He goes, I really want Nando's. And that's when we
invented
Nando's at home.
Yeah.
But it was all within
the macros.
that we now we make it. It's within our macros. It's within our calories, and we actually enjoy it more than.
So, question for you: you've been on your own journey for over a year now. How have you managed to improve your nutritional education so much? Because over a year ago, you would never be able to do that, right? So, what's been your educational development there with your nutrition?
I think I asked a lot of questions at the beginning, and I asked a lot of questions to Ed continuously, like, okay, I'm going out, like social events and everything, for, like, especially our age, these lot just recently started going out more than I do, and they went, so what do I do? Like, how do I do this? Like,
it's asking questions.
It was just asking a lot of questions, and I think for whichever age group, their age, my age, is asking questions, and that's the only way you can educate yourself, is if you ask the questions. And now it's like, if I go out, I'll know what to eat, but I'll always be like, is it this one on the menu? And it will be multiple times correct. And then they would ask as well. Mum and Dad would ask, so what do we cut out anything when we're going out, or what should we cut out? And there's times Dad asks on the menu, like, what chicken should I have?
Yeah.
Instead, like, this is maybe Friday night when everyone's probably either starting the day or sleeping or whatever, and it'll be like, maybe try this one, and most of the time he's get it right as well. And I think it's just with them, with Mum and Dad both, they supported me right from the start for my journey. That, the walk, crying and walking, that started off our walks and everything as well. During lockdown we walked together a lot, and it was
reflect on the day, wouldn't
it was reflecting on the day. And it used to be 5 o'clock, 5:30, we used to set out for our 1 hour walk, come back, and they would be like, it was more reflective, or have a rant about your day or something. And 6 months on, we still go for that same walk around the
Well, it's a good opportunity for children. Well, I say children, I'm not saying young, but children of the older parents to take their parents for walks.
Yeah.
That's an easy way where subconsciously they're not even deciding. You're deciding for them, like, hey, let's go for a walk.
Yeah.
Like it's forcing better behaviours. Instead of saying, hey, I'm going to come over, can you make me my favourite food? It's like, I want to come over, let's go for a walk.
Yeah.
And just go at their pace and just let them make that habit.
And also they talk.
Yeah.
I mean, we
talk.
As a family talk a lot
anyway.
We as a family talk anyway, but there are a lot of families who don't talk, don't communicate. So this would be perfect.
You'd be surprised how suddenly you start going for these walks, and you suddenly people will start opening up, and random conversations can suddenly turn into something much more profound.
So families will bond better as well.
I had the biggest flashback when I was crying on my first journey was when Dad's Yvonne took his peanut butter out by 10 grams, and he just he was like heartbroken. He was heartbroken, and I was like, what's happened to you? This is walking to the gym in the morning. I was like, well, why are you so grumpy? He goes, Yvonne's taken my peanut butter out. I don't know, how am I going to eat that? I've been sorry. And he was walking down, and he just stormed off, and he was like, oh, this is a bit of a sore subject to touch now.
Now we talk about, whenever there's been a meal change, we talk about it. So, oh, I've got this. But now I take it in my stride. Now I understand the thinking behind it.
Yeah.
Previously I didn't understand the thinking behind it. But now
how much better is it that you understand these changes rather than doing it blindly? Is doing it blindly the problem?
Yes.
For long-term solutions?
Yeah, they are the yo-yo diets.
Yeah. So does the
accountability is so important. It's
does the education and accountability need to start from the beginning? Like
from day one?
Yeah, you can't delay that.
No.
From day one.
Otherwise, the yo-yo diets would work.
Yeah. And then but what happens is that you suddenly realise that actually I need to work within this framework.
Yeah.
I can do if I want to eat this, I've got to make sure I don't have this, and I can work on it. And it makes it easier for you. So when you go out, I mean, you have this goal. You say if you're going out to eat, it's about 1,000 calories. So work on that basis, and then work backwards and see what you can make adjustments on that day, and do that, and you'll be fine the following day. And that's a really good benchmark.
Yeah.
And that's become, it's not in a mindset yet, but we're working on it.
But it's all an evolution. What you find is you go through different processes. So you're in that phase where it's like you're learning what contains what. And then it'll soon be, oh, I know roughly that contains that. And then it'll be like, oh, when I go out, I'll just have this because that's what I want. And then you don't need to adjust anything. And this is the slowly improving level of intuition you develop. You're like, oh yeah, I probably had a bit too much earlier on. I'll just naturally have less. Or this was roughly 600 calories. Like it just becomes bigger. The level of education just grows and grows and grows. It's like going from a primary school to university degree of yourself, like of your own mind and your body.
I was listening to one of your podcasts, and I can't remember who it was, but she said, I know when I go to a reception or something, if there's going to be a samosa, I am going to have that samosa, and everything else will work around it, because I can have. I thought, yeah, I know exactly where she's coming from, and I know what she means by that, and I think she's worked it out. She's got it down to find.
I mean, that's the same thing. That's why the journey doesn't stop, because the journey continues to evolve. It continues to evolve because transformation never ends. Transformation only leads to another level. That's because education always has another level. There's always something new you can learn about yourself. And that's why it's the journey of yourself, isn't it?
Speaking of that, it's speaking of that, because I'm a year on now. It's more like, because when they were doing their shoot, this is back to the supporting of them. When they were doing their shoot, I said, okay, how about I go through a mini cut grind period, and I did this in the first 3 weeks of starting a new job as well, and I thought it's the best time to rewire everything. And I remember Ed saying, now you've reached your point, we need to educate you further to how you can develop yourself now even more. So this is through now now our check-ins are based on, okay, you've got your diet, your exercise, now it's your lifestyle rules he wants to include, saying, okay, have you met your lifestyle rules, your journaling, your reading, your going to sleep, your timings of sleep. And he's continuously in an indirect way, he's educating me in a different way now. Not about food now, not so much about food, more about myself, different ways of making myself better. And in terms of the support, and I think it's when children are going through it themselves, it's a good way of bringing the parents in as well. Because I remember when Dad got his chocolate taken out, I was like, okay, I've still got chocolate, I'm going to take it out my diet as well, just because
so there's no chocolate
in the house then, because then otherwise it will feel like, oh no, it's there, I've taken it out, and I felt bad for eating it in front of me as well. So it's automatic, and I felt like it's almost a way of not repaying them for the support they gave. It's more like, I know how it feels.
We're in together.
Yeah, we're in this together, and I know how it feels, and I know what they're going through with the grind. We need to support them.
It's amazing how if you're all supporting each other, it's amazing how much you can achieve, because you're not only accountable to your coach, you're also accountable to each other. And so eventually, I remember this today just before lunch. I opened the wrong cupboard, and your mum goes, no, don't do that, don't do that, not that one, please don't do that. Just stick to your lunch. I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stick to my lunch. And I had my lunch, and I'm just glad I had that. It was fine. That was just an excuse to just dip into something else. No, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
So
slow rewiring, isn't it?
Yeah.
It doesn't happen overnight. Now you're in that phase where it's like, oh, there's no shoot, there's no checkpoint. Now I'm going to learn how to actually live.
Yeah.
That's going to be an interesting.
That's why I don't get why people think the checkpoint's the end. It doesn't make any sense because you're just going to go back to the beginning. Like you have to now learn. I used to for the last 20 years I've been opening that cupboard without even thinking.
Yeah.
Now I've got to change this whole behaviour when there's no real reason to do so. It's just because of this is who I am.
Now you're out in the open effectively.
Yeah.
With that cupboard as well, we've moved things around. So peanut butter used to be in that cupboard, and peanut butter is something we need every day. So we've shifted it and put it where the protein powder is. Yeah. Just little small things like that. Just
and that cupboard makes a noise now. So
it's got a creak inside.
Everyone knows, though.
So if you
somebody's in that cupboard, we know.
You can hear it.
Yeah. So she heard it. So she goes, no, you don't need it. Trust me, you don't. And she was right. I didn't need it. So yeah, absolutely. But it's now this is the sort of, it's a difficult phase, but you sort of reassessing all the time.
But then you don't want to go back as well.
Because you know what good
you don't want to look. You don't want to look like you did before.
Yeah. Because of all the reasons we've spoken for in the last hour.
Right. Yeah. Right.
But each part you do in this journey, there is always a reason. And one of the things I remember when I can't remember who it was, is, have you started the Vegeta grind? I said, no, I haven't started the Vegeta grind yet. What I have started is the Gavranic grind. And all credit to Ivan, mine wasn't that long. I think he sort of eased me into it quite, but it was about 3 weeks or so.
That's about right.
But I tell you, those 3 weeks were probably the toughest 3 weeks I've been through. But also 3 weeks you really assess so many things. You do so much introspection. And ironically, at that time, I listened to an interesting podcast with you and one of your RNTers, Manmeet Chowdhury, and she talked about detoxing, and she also talked about sort of putting things into sort of certain places in your brain. And then I remember I had a number of issues which were really toxic issues in my, but I actually got rid of them in that 3 week period. And I remember saying to your mom, I said, these 3 weeks have been the most interesting because now I find I feel lighter. And I can't explain to you why, but the 2 or 3 things I've completely got out of my system. And I feel that I've grown as a person. I'm sort of larger than that person who was causing all the issues. And she understood exactly where I was coming from. And when she was going through her grind, she said, yeah, I managed to sort of address a lot of issues which have all now sort of found a place, and I'm in a better place myself. So you feel a sense of lightness, which I've heard people talk about, but not personally experienced it myself.
And the way you crystallize it is you see that period as an opportunity. There's an opportunity to crystallize it later on because you identify things, but you can only crystallize it if you put it into action later on. And you have to continuously go through that cycle of introspection and action. But this the period you're talking about is the first time you might have done that deep inside, and then you can access that deepness anytime now to fight, to continue to solve.
And that's where the steps came in. You see, because at that time I did about 18,000, was it 18 or 16,000 steps, and I used to say to them, look, no, I'll go and do the last 4,000 or last 5,000, whatever it is, because you can't. And you sort of go and it was quite cold. You're walking, and your mind starts becoming more focused. You become focused yourself, and you come back and you feel better for it. And I sort of analysed it with something which I've never done previously. But I sat down and I said, actually, the 2 issues. Those 2 issues I was talking about mean absolutely nothing to me. I've completely detoxified them. So,
and what you find is that you're talking about that period, but you can keep doing it now.
Yeah.
But you do it now. You don't need extreme circumstances to bring it up. You can just do it because you access another layer.
Yeah.
You have more self-awareness and ability to access.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Any final words for the listeners and watchers today?
Go for it. Go for the RNT journey.
Nice plug for my parents.
And absolutely. Listen to your kids. I said that in the podcast we did on number 100. I'll say it now, and I'll say it even more so. Listen to them. They took a shed load of more sense than we give them credit for. And I actually some of the things I've learned in the last week, thanks to my daughter. she knocked some real sense into me when I was being slightly, quote unquote, pig-headed. So it's a result for me. I'm the one who's benefited.
And also one last thing, I think both mum and dad, and you would probably agree, that nothing is impossible.
Never say never.
This is a quote that I used to have in the classroom as well. So nothing is impossible because the word itself says I'm possible.
Yeah.
And they've shown that.
Never say never.
Never say never.
Yeah. Never say never.
And everything is possible.
Yeah.
So well done.
Just thank you.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I think listen to, I mean, if you're on pills and medication, just have a think, change your diet. Just have, just think about it.
And go for a walk. Start with a walk. Do 100 meters, then the following day 110 meters. You'll be surprised. You will surprise yourself.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing your story, and
Thanks for having us.
I know this chat will inspire many people across all generations. So thank you.
We're grateful you're having us, because we thought we'd come to episode 200, but we've made it
earlier.
38 episodes earlier, so we're dead chuffed. Thank you.
Thank you.